Hey everybody, Jim here. Today we are going to talk about how to make a riser sound in Ableton using DTMF Tones, Granulator, and a few other processing plugins. We'll get into what all that means here in a second, so let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so here we have our DTMF Tones, and you're probably asking yourself, unless you're already familiar with those, what in the world are DTMF tones? So DTMF tones is something that's going to be extremely familiar to you once you hear it. These are touch tone sounds. DTMF actually, I think I have the page up here. Yeah, DTMF tones actually stands for dual tone multi-frequency, or it may actually stand for dual tone multiplex frequency. I'm not really sure which one is the correct one, but basically anytime you hear one of these tones over the phone, it's two frequencies played together, some from the low band and some from the high band. So these are all of the digits on your phone, and then a couple of those there, and this chart tells you what frequencies are played when you hit those buttons on your phone. So I will include a link to this if you want to check it out for yourself. It'll be in the description of the video, but let's go back into what we did with these. So we have our regular DTMF tones here. I actually got this out of Audacity. You can just generate these tones, and then I rendered it out and brought it into Ableton. So the first thing I did was got out Granulator, and we'll go ahead. Okay, those are off. Basic settings here just to kind of sweep, sweep through the audio. This is what it sounds like by itself. So you get the idea. I wanted to add some harshness to the top of this, so what better plugin to do that with than Amp? So with this, you'll notice a very large difference right away. So from there, we just added the simple delay, using it kind of like a dimension expander. And finally, some OTT. So then I just created a blank audio track and recorded all that down into audio. So that's what we have here, is just all of that recorded down into audio. So from there, how we got to the finished product was I took one of these sections here and stretched it out about as far as I could. Well, not quite as far as I could, but pretty darn far. And the way to do that is basically, here, I'll just give an example of that real quick. If we take this and just copy it down here, let's grab this section and cut it out. And then we can warp this using Complex Pro. You can use any algorithm you want. They're all going to give you slightly different results, but go ahead and warp that. And then you can see for that section, if we turn this up, it starts to stretch out. And the file actually becomes longer as you play through it. And then it's going to have all this artifacty goodness if you really, really stretch it out, which is exactly what we did here. So we'll go ahead and mute all of these. And it's basically, oh, I should say this before I play this. In the editor here, in the region editor, I went into transposition modulation and started it at an octave down from where the tone actually is, and then went up to here, made it a little bit steeper, and then made it even steeper still at the end. So this is just basically one big pitch bend that plays all the way through the file. So with that pitch bend, this is what the file sounds like. So you get the idea. Now, let's go over some of the processing. Again, I just threw another OTT on it. Halcyon is a saturator plugin. I basically just chose everything but the low, mid, and low portions of the sound, selected that in this window, and increased the drive a little bit. I can go over Halcyon in another tutorial if there's interest in it, but this is one of my go-to saturator plugins other than Ableton's native saturator. So that's just to give it a little beef to saturate those the majority of the sound anyway. After that, added some reverb to it, some pretty big reverb with Valhalla Room, including all of the frequencies, bringing the high cut all the way up, no modulation. So it's pretty straightforward there. And then an auto filter here with the lows cut out, a little bit of a boost where the cutoff frequency is. This is set to OSR, and I gave it almost 5 dB worth of drive. So I'm going to go ahead and just mute all of these, and I'm going to play through the riser sound, and then I'll click them in, and you can tell what they do to the sound. So there you have it. We went from DTMF Tones to a pretty cool riser sound. I hope you enjoyed this. This is obviously, you're not just going to be like, oh, for all of the times that I'm going to turn DTMF Tones into something. This is just an example of how you can take a very basic sound, process it, be a little creative with it, and end up with something pretty cool as a finished result. So take this. I actually rendered this out and put it on my website. It's 25 cents if you want to buy this riser sound. I'm actually trying to raise money right now so that I can move back to Florida. So anybody who might want a riser sound for a quarter, I will put the link to the shop on my website in the description of this video, and you can have this sound for 25 cents. And if not, you know how to make it, so you can just go and make it yourself for free. That is gonna be it. I hope you found this inspirational. I hope you play around with some other sounds doing the same kind of thing with it, and see what kind of crazy results you can come up with. Bye, guys.